Working together, we can put an end to this cycle that creates deep pain in the hearts of our mothers, our fathers, and our people who have lost loved ones to this senseless violence.
Today, we're talking about one of the most controversial figures in Los Angeles street history. Some people remember him as the founder of the Crips. Others remember him as a convicted murderer. And others remember him as a death row inmate who spent his final years trying to stop gang violence. His name was Stanley "Tookie" Williams.
Two of the main leaders of the Crips was Tookie, Stanley Williams, and Raymond Washington was the East Side.
Stanley "Tookie" Williams was born on December 29th, 1953 in Shreveport, Louisiana, and later moved to South Central Los Angeles with his mother. Growing up in South Central during the 1960s, Tookie developed a reputation as a tough and fearless fighter. Friends and rivals alike knew him as someone who was physically imposing and willing to defend himself at any time.
Tookie had a reputation of not just killing, which he did do, but he could knock people out. He had 24-inch arm that he could knock people out. If Tookie hit you and you didn't fall down and get knocked out, you was a bad guy.
Yeah.
And you get a reputation taking a punch.
By his teenage years, he had become one of the most respected young street figures on the west side of South Central. In the late 1960s, Tookie met another influential teenager named Raymond Washington. Washington had influence on the east side. Tookie had influence on the west side. Together, they began bringing neighborhood groups together under one banner. In the early 1970s, their alliance became the foundation of what would become the Crips. What started out as a neighborhood alliance quickly expanded throughout South Los Angeles. Neither teenager could have imagined how large it would become eventually.
Before I saw this dude, I've seen Tookie several times as I got older, and it was all kind of rumors about Tookie. Guy shot him with a 22 in the chest. He pulled the bullets out, beat the nigga's ass. I mean, these guys became street legends.
As the Crips expanded, their reputation spread rapidly. New sets formed across Los Angeles. Neighborhoods either joined the Crips or organized against them. Those opposing groups would eventually become known as the Bloods. The rivalry between the two organizations would shape Los Angeles street culture for decades.
I met Tookie at the Watch Festival through Raymond. I met him in '72. And right after we had lost our friend Skip, remember the festivals are in August. And we hadn't found out who killed Skip. We didn't know that it was Crip involvement, but of course they were the number one suspect. We didn't go there to fight the Crips at that festival, and Raymond introduced me to Barefoot Pookie and Cowboy and Tookie that day. So I didn't really know Tookie. I didn't. First impression was one that I didn't like a Tookie. Unlike this is your leader, Raymond. And he says, Tookie, the Lavender Brothers, Bobby and Jimmy. Mm-hmm. To me alone, you don't have to puff up to swell up when your leader is introducing you to some guys who are his friends.
Gotcha.
So I didn't like that. So I knew then that me and Tookie could never be friends.
By the mid-1970s, both Raymond Washington and Tookie Williams had become legendary figures on the streets of Los Angeles. In 1979, Tookie Williams was arrested and accused of participating in 2 robberies that left 4 people unalived. Prosecutors argued that Williams murdered a convenience store clerk and later killed 3 members of a family during a motel robbery. Williams maintained his innocence throughout his life, but in 1981, he was convicted and sentenced to death. At just 27 years old, he was sent to death row at San Quentin. Most people expected Tookie Williams to spend the rest of his life angry. Instead, something unexpected happened. Over the years, Williams began speaking out against gangs. He co-authored books warning young people about gang life. His anti-gang work gained international attention. He received several Nobel Peace Prize nominations and Nobel Literature nominations, becoming one of the most unusual figures ever associated with the death penalty debate. Supporters argued he had transformed himself.
Thou shalt not kill. I don't care if you're the governor, president, me, you. Thou shalt not kill. Now, if dude killed somebody, let God deal with it. That's not my call. That's not your call. Anybody else's call.
Critics argued that true redemption required admitting guilt for the murders that put him on death row.
Well, I mean, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You kill someone, you're gonna punish for it. So.
I felt that he shouldn't have died because he killed other people. So I don't think they should have did anything different for him just because he wrote some books. He shouldn't have lived.
By 2005, Tookie Williams had become the center of a worldwide debate. Celebrities, religious leaders, politicians, anti-death penalty activists, many asked California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger to spare his life. Supporters pointed to his anti-gang work and his efforts to discourage violence amongst young people. Opponents pointed to the murder convictions and argued justice had already been decided by the courts. The decision ultimately rested with the governor.
And as far as, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's worrying about his political aspect of it. I think, as far as if he's worrying about votes, I think he might have lost a lot of votes from the black community now.
On December 13th, 2005, Governor Schwarzenegger denied clemency. A few hours later, Stanley Tookie Williams was executed by lethal injection at San Quentin State Prison. He was 51 years old.
The unofficial time of death for condemned inmate Stanley Williams is 12:35 p.m. We will have an official time of death when the warden arrives to give a brief statement.
After spending nearly a quarter century on death row, one of the most famous inmates in America was gone. His execution sparked protests and renewed debate about whether a person can truly change. Nearly 2 decades after his passing, Stanley Tookie Williams remains one of the most controversial figures in American history. To some, he was the founder of an organization that contributed to decades of violence. To others, he was proof that even people who have committed terrible acts can change and help others. His life raises difficult questions. Can a person be redeemed? Should redemption matter when determining punishment? And can someone escape the shadow of what they helped create? Regardless of where you stand, one thing is certain. The story of Tookie Williams is one of the most extraordinary stories ever to come out of Los Angeles street history.
I was doing time there when he was executed, and unfortunately, Tookie was in a spot where the society and politics and everything like that were trying to push everybody, push this idea that killing somebody is what we ought to be doing with people, and I'm of the opinion, because I took somebody's life, I says, well, I deserve to die for what I did. But the reality is that I also think that, before they start going around killing people, that, they should prosecute and kill, somebody who is a millionaire. And because, it almost invariably, the people that wind up on death row, if not every one of them, they didn't have money. They didn't have money for people to, and pay for for attorneys that would, keep, make sure that their rights were not being violated. So, the idea that somebody should be killed for what they did, that's the thing. And then Tookie was, purportedly he didn't do what they said he did in the first place. I did not know him directly. I think I've seen him walking, being escorted by staff, because the death row inmates were under close security and everything like that. And surprisingly, they're now transferring those guys to prisons, and they're letting them walk a main line and stuff like that nowadays. But back when Tookie was there, he was in the maximum security area, and I was not privy to that kind of area. Or I wasn't going to be there, so I just hear the stories and stuff like that. And I was hearing stories about that, if they killed him, that prison guards and or police out on the streets were going to be killed and everything like that. And so they locked us down, and I think we stayed locked down for about 3-4 days as a result of that. And but it came and went, and I remember what was his name? Reverend Jesse Jackson. He came to see him, and a couple of other celebrities came to see him at that time. I think Snoop Dogg actually came to see him as well.
Yeah.
And I was hearing the stories, and I was kind of like watching that stuff unfold.
I remember when I first saw Tookie when I got there. I got to death row in 1999, and it was around 2000. I met him, and I'm sitting in my cell, and this big dude, and I'm talking about huge, is walking down the tier with, he's on his way to the shower. He's being escorted by an officer, but I noticed when he walked past, he didn't have on regular handcuffs. We're escorted, we're handcuffed and escorted everywhere we go, even to the shower. And he was on his way to the shower. The guy had on what we call leg irons. Those are the shackles that you see on people's ankles when they're going to court or being transferred. Those are called leg irons. So leg irons are some larger handcuffs with probably 2 feet of chain in between each cuff. And this is what Tookie Williams was wearing on his way to the shower. And he stopped at my cell and he said, "Hey, big man, you need anything?" And I looked at him, and this is my first time in prison. I recognized who it was because I just had read this big article in the San Diego newspaper about him. And so I'm looking at him and I tell him no. In my mind, I'm thinking about those 1970 movies where, somebody offer you something and you're going to have to offer them something, So, I'm not going, and I'm looking at this big dude, probably got about some 22-inch arms, and solid, swole, walking up to my cell, asking me, do I need anything? In my mind, I'm like, hell no, I know who you are, but it didn't stop him. And I'm glad that it didn't, because what happened after that between me and him was just like, it was amazing. Tookie, from that moment right there, I had this idea that he was a monster, and I couldn't trust him. I didn't really trust nothing. I'm first time in prison, but it all started when I was going to yard one day, and he was playing basketball, and he said to me, "Hey, big man, you think you can hang with me on this basketball court?" And that was a hell of a challenge. That was a challenge to me. I took that as a challenge, because I got arrested at 22 years old. And so I got to death row a few days before my 26th birthday. So I was still, in the sports, and basketball was one of my favorite sports. So I took up the offer. And as soon as I took up the offer, he said, "Well, then come on down here, get moved to this yard," and so I ended up getting moved to his yard. And I tell you, man, it was a blessing to be able to be around that man. He taught me things. Brotherhood. It don't matter where you're from. We had one struggle, and that struggle was to fight for our life. He got me into writing. Um, Whatever he was with education, and he had certain people in position to assist others. On that yard with whatever you wanted to do. If you wanted to do artwork, he had a corner with people that was doing artwork. If it was math that you needed, he had people that was there to assist with math, reading and writing. He had people to assist with that. This was all set up by him, and people willing to be around him and be a part of his system and his change. I've grown to love the guy and have the world of respect for him because he could have made it hard for me, but he didn't. And so, I tried to work out with him. I couldn't hang with him. I would do a few push-ups and get on out of his way. We played basketball, and he was very competitive. And for him to be, as old as he was, or as young as he was, but as old as he was, because he was older than me, the man he was athletic, and the conversations were really deep about family, about unity, about peace. It was altogether different than that first day when I looked at him walking past my cell and asking me if I needed something. When I got near him, and it was a very positive experience. So I was embraced by him, and I started to learn. How to treat people. I started to look past colors. I started to look past geographical locations. I started to assist, be of service. This is where I got all this from, man. From that man right there. From him being of service and assisting me. And taking time out to communicate with me and show me who he was. As I learned who I was.
When he was finally put to death, what was your general thoughts? And, not only you, did it affect everyone around you inside?
It absolutely did. It was hard. We were outside on the yard on one of his last days there. One of his last days before they took him through that process. We were on the general population yard, and he came and greeted a few of us and told us, they're going to come pick him up and take him through the process. And he was sure that, well, I know when he gave me a hug, he said, "Don't worry, bro. Don't worry, little bro." He said, "They're not going to kill me. I'm going to go to the main line." Those were the words that he said to me. And I believed it. Here's a man that was a mentor and like a father figure, but a big brother. And he knew what their intentions were, just like when the judge said it to me. He knew what their intentions were, but he believed that it wasn't going to happen. And so they took, on December 9th, 2005, they came and got those that they considered were his close friends. And they ended up including me in that. And so, and me, being identified as a blood, we all went to the hole, and, a captain came up and asked me, "Hey, Thomas, are you a blood?" And I said, "What does my C file say?" And he said, "Well, it says you're not a gang member." He said, "But if you're a blood, you shouldn't be over here. We got you by mistake. And I said, I'm not a gang member. That's all I said. And I wrote it out. I wrote it out in the hole because, you know, at that time they did what they did, and we were hurt. We were sad. You know, another positive black person, you know, with influence, clearly, you know, life taken, you know, and that was really sad. So I wrote out the investigation, and even though I was cleared of the allegation, they had an allegation that we were planning to assault prison staff and administration in the event of his murder by the state. They cleared me of the investigation, but then turned around and labeled me a blue note. And I don't even know how they did that.
What's a blue note?
No, that has nothing to do with me. Yeah, it's allegedly supposed to, well, it's a prison gang. It's supposed to.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
According to CDCR, it's a prison gang. And I thought that, you know, that was kind of strange to me, because in order to be a part of a prison gang, you have to be in a street gang. And how could you be, you know, they said they were going to investigate where we came from, the cities, the local law enforcement where we came from. So quite naturally, I knew that the law enforcement, if they spoke with them, was going to say I was a blood, then I'll be out of there. But they didn't do no investigation. They just labeled us as they wanted to. So here's a situation where they just placed the label on me.
Now,
but I believe,
go ahead, keep on.
You know, going through that investigation for, I believe going through that investigation for Big Tip was worth it, though. You know, I would have sat there with my mouth shut and not said a word. You know, all the knowledge that I got from him in that short amount of time that I was with him, all the love and that he showed me, you know, and all the respect that I have for that individual, you know, yeah, it was worth sitting there.
Thank you for tuning in to Dusty Vision TV. Please hit that like button if you have not already. And if this is your first time joining the channel and you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, you just might appreciate this bonus clip I'm about to play for you right now. That documentary is a very popular documentary, and talking about I think it came out in '84, was it?
Yes, it's called Gang
City.
Gang City.
Is it true that documentary, it was really to uncover the gang violence that was going on because the Olympics were in town?
That part is true. What they did around the world, the media had put the world on notice about the Summer Olympics being awarded in 1984 to the city of Los Angeles. So in the minds of the world, they're thinking, well, they got a huge gang problem in that city. You know, how will we be protected? Will it be safe? Are we secure? You know what I mean? Because you're thinking we're here, we're seeing it one way, but around the world, we don't know what the media is telling these guys. So what happened, the BBC put together a film crew, a documentary crew, and they came over, and when they did, they hooked up with a detective from OSS. His name was Graves. So they asked Graves the question, out of all the Crip gangs and everything, who he saw is the most dangerous and who would represent be seen as problematic. So he quickly, I don't know why he said it, but he said the Santana Block Crips. So when he tell this guy, the guy say, hey, well, that's who I need to talk to, you know? So he brought him over. So the guy, when they rose up, man, we all out on Spring Street. You know,
how did that happen? I got to hear this story, yeah.
So me, Turtle, and the rest of us, some of the homies I just named, a bunch of us, Kizzy, Mondo, Bad Habit Rabbit, Twin, Gertzie, Primo Pete, just to name a few, right? Even Tanner Mike, all a bunch of guys out there, right? Just because on a day to day, that's what you saw, man. Anywhere from 20 to 50 guys hanging out. You know what I mean? Because we had 2 houses, one front house, a back house, and another house across the street at that time. Or the house across the street came later. So, but anyway, we were congregating out there. You know what I mean? So the guy pulls up, man. The guy name was, if I remember correctly, was James. And he put up and he said, and he jumped out. He said, "Hello, mate. My name is James." English guy, right? And we looking at him. He say, "I'm looking for Toto." Toto.
Wow.
You know, me and Turtle sitting there looking at each other like, man, what's going on with this dude? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? And we see the OSS, so we think it's all a trick. So the OSS dude asked the man, was he all right? Was he okay? He had all his camera crew and his film people there. And he told the guy to go ahead. I got these chats. I talked to him. It'll be okay. So the sheriffs left.
Damn.
You know, they left. And we sat there chalking it up. So the guy was trying to, you know, it took him a while to convince us to do the documentary, right? It wasn't like we just jumped up and said, okay.
Yeah.
You know, after some back and forth and some money negotiated and stuff like that. So it was worked out. And we wound up doing it. He hopped in the lowrider with me and Turtle. For those who don't know it, that's me in the car with Turtle. As he doing the interview, he mentioned my name in there. And then we were at the skating ring when the girl asked him, "That Turtle in there?" "Yeah, baby, it's me. Drop it like it's hot." And when he tell the other guys, skating ring partner, that's me and him all right there.
That's a meme in itself, I think. That's literally a skate ring partner.
Yeah, skating ring partner. You know, so that's me and Turtle right there together, man. And so the guy, we took him to the skating ring. We took him to Florence in Maine, where we got pulled over by the highway patrol. They was running our numbers because we had lowriders. Back then, you know, lowriders were known for having parts that didn't necessarily belong to the car. You know what I mean? So, you know, so they was running numbers and stuff. Everything came back legit. They wrote a couple of tickets. Turtle took the ticket right there in front of the cameras. And if you go back and look at it, he tore the ticket up right in front of the police. And the camera in the world right there and threw the ticket away.
Damn. At that time, were all the blacks getting together, you know, for numbers, or was it like still on with your enemy? Like if you saw, let's say, a blood or something like that, are you scrapping off site, or were you guys getting together for numbers, black wise?
In prison, it was like the blacks were more united, you know, and I want to say that I feel like in 1996, you know, 97, 98, up in there, that was pretty much kind of like the end of where, you know, like a lot of black unity, a lot of, especially like Crip on Crip love. You know, sometimes, you know, you still would have people who would just on the strength of you being a Crip, they would embrace you. And gradually that started fading out. And so there was always, you know, pretty much peace for the most part with the Bloods. You know, they had their little area and we had our area, but we wasn't just clashing and stuff. Matter of fact, when I first left the county jail and got sent to reception center in Tehachapi, you know, there was a few of us Crips and Bloods. We were sitting at the table playing dominoes together, and it was crazy to me because that was my first interaction with being around Bloods. You know, that was back when I was just used to being around Crips, and so, but that was we was respectful. This older dude, older friend, he by the name of Dan Tanner from Long Beach Insane, you know, so he was lacing me just basically on the prison politics, like, you know, you don't holler cuz in front of the Bloods because it was disrespectful, and vice versa. You know, if a person was gonna do that, they had like areas like the Crips would hang in a certain area, and it was permitted. It was permitted like that, but like in neutral places like the Chow Hall, maybe, you know, the out on the yard where everybody could hear you, it was seen as disrespectful. So, you know, it was just it was for the most part a lot of like togetherness and things like that, so it wouldn't cause, you know, riots and stuff like that, because that was back when people was really gang banging, and of course a Blood doesn't want to hear a Crip hollering cuz and vice versa.
Now, you were in there for 24 years. I'm sure you talked with many, many people, you know, throughout that time. What percentage of people would you say, if you could give an estimate, are locked up because someone told on them?
For violent crimes, I would say a large percentage. I would like to probably say I would like to say probably 100%, 98, 100%, because there's always, it's always people telling, and you're gonna still have or at least back then you still had a majority of people, sticking to the code and staying solid, but there's always been people who don't want to go to jail, and I've never ran across anyone who didn't have someone, telling on them in their case.
Listen to that, kids out there who have that ride or die homie. This is my homie, man. We going down together, all that. Listen to what this man just said, dude. Most likely, if your homie is facing football numbers, his ass is going to tell on you.
If you got 5 individuals caught up in a case, 2 of them is telling, at least, 2 of them is going to tell. And I've seen dudes with tough gang banging names come to jail, and these real tough gang banging names, and I won't throw this dude out there, but he came to jail and he was facing 6 years and was in the cell crying. He was looking at 6 years, and you got all these other dudes in there facing life, and he had a real vicious gang banging name, and I believe he had accidentally shot his girlfriend or pointed a gun at, and the gun went off, but he was in the cell crying. So his cellie came out, told everybody it was kind of him, but it's just stuff like people think it's like this gangbanging stuff is a joke, and they act hard until they get caught up in the situation, which reminds me of another quick story I'll share with you. I was a porter at some point in time in the county jail, and I used to get a lot of magazines, a lot of rap magazines, a lot of books. And so this guy, I'd seen him come in and out, and he came in and he said, "Hey man, let me get one of those books." And I said, "What you want, a rap magazine, a double XL?" He said, "No, I need a Bible. I just caught a hot one," which is, for those who don't know, California term for murder is a hot one, but the first thing he wanted was a Bible, but he wasn't thinking about a Bible the day before. And so it just, when you're in there and the walls are closing in on you, sometimes it's, more people than not can't take it.
Would it have been as successful if it was a peace album? A true peace album? Because I remember watching the news stories. They were everywhere. And they're still on YouTube. Go check them out. Type in Banging on Wax news story, and I'm sure 12 of them will pop up from that time. They were everywhere. The whole country was talking about this. But I remember watching news stories, and they were all together. It was almost like, and I hate to compare it to this because real lives have been lost, but real lives get lost in wrestling also. But it's like watching professional wrestling, and then you see behind the scenes, you see the bad guy and the good guy hanging out, and they're playing cards and sipping whiskey, and you're like, wait, you guys hated each other in the ring. What the heck is going on? But nope. I was watching them on TV, and I was like, wait, they were talking about being total enemies on the songs, but here they are on TV, and they're all together, and they're friends, and it was one of the first mind F moments for me. It was like a mind-blowing moment, like, oh shit, wait, what the is this, Hollywood? Wait, hold on. I was, and keep in mind, I was 13, 14, something like that at that time. But let's keep going with Mike Frankie, engineer from Banging on Wax, talking about the bad side of Banging on Wax.
And I don't want to disrespect the dead. I don't ever want to be perceived like that, right? But Ronnie and I had a lot of conversations about that. I said, bro, you're not in the streets. You don't see the impact that this record is having. Tweet did.
So Ronnie Phillips was the guy who put the project together, one of the main guys who put the project together. So when he says Ronnie didn't understand the streets, he's talking about the guy who put the album together. Now, when he says tweet, he's talking about Tweety Bird Loke. Tweety Bird Loke is Compton legend. I guess that's the best way to say it. Very early, rare gangster rapper from Kelly Park, Compton Crip. And he had a tape, and I had the tape. I bought it at Underworld Records, right on Castlegate and Alondra. Shout out to Big A, who's still doing his thing. Him and I share the same exact first name, Arnold. Big A Arnold, Underworld Records. I bought Tweety Bird Loke's album. Tape, just the tape. And I think it was just the single. It was the one where he was dissing NWA. He had a song where he was dissing Eazy-E. But Tweety Bird Loke, man, he was on his way to becoming a legend back then. But for whatever reason, he just didn't reach the success that I felt he should have reached. And he passed away just maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, if my memory serves me correct. But just recently, within the past 5 or 6 years. But him and I were in talks, and that's why I know it was about that time, because him and I were in talks about him coming on my show and being on it and doing an episode. And then, yeah, just it never came to fruition, unfortunately, and Tweety Bird Loke passed. But so, okay, so when he's saying Ronnie Phillips in the story and he's talking Tweety Bird Loke, R.I.P., that's who he is talking about. So let's go back to Mike Frankie, engineer from Bangin' on Wax.
And I don't want to disrespect the dead. I don't ever want to be perceived like that, right? But Ronnie and I had a lot of conversations about that. I said, bro, you're not in the streets. You don't see the impact that this record is having. Tweet did. Tweet did, though. And Tweet came to me and he's like, man, we should have listened to you. I said, I tried to tell you niggas you didn't know what you were getting into when you did that, and then, disrespected my man Ronnie Phillips, but he wanted to be in the lap of the white boys. He was like, yo, man, I got Rush Regan. He gonna do this and do that. And guess what? Ain't nobody from that record or their descendants spend a dime of that money. That's it. That record sent their kids to college.
What's it like for an active gang member to enter prison?
Well, when you get in there, you're gonna get some people that's gonna, like, for me, when I got in there, my first time in there, I was young. So they sent me to a medium camp, and it was like college. I'm like, this shit is nothing. You know what I'm saying? This is, I had 12 months to do, did that, got out. You do 8 months off of each year. So when I did that, I got back out. It was, I'm like, that ain't shit. Called another case, went back to another medium. Shit didn't get hard until motherfucker got to the max joints, and then still it wasn't like that hard until I got out of town, because we was banging in the joints. We was banging in the joints down here, so they took 20 of us and split us all up. I ended up getting shot down to Kansas. When I got down there, I seen a whole nother way of a prison lifestyle. I seen a whole nother way. Like, we're not even really bidding in jail up here. Our jails, like, it's real simple. I'm talking about, you get paid real good. The jails is clean. You get good food. As far as jail shit, man, you get down to Kansas, man, that shit is hard times, man. You got to really know how to hustle down there in them joints. I was in Hutch, and I was in Lansing, and I was in El Dorado, right next to the B2K killer. That was my next door neighbor. And it down there, they're not faking, man. That Crip and Blood shit is for real. And I'm gonna tell you, the Serranials and the Northanials, boy, they go the hardest to me, because they're not letting nobody. They're not letting nobody from the like, if it's a Northaniel, he's not letting no Serranial touch their compound, and vice versa. So I'll be like, yeah, they not faking. We'll sit here and let a Blood or a Crip walk past us, and we won't even think nothing about it. They ain't playing. I'm like, and they work out like a well-oiled machine. I seen that shit. I'm like, yeah, that's what's up. Like down here in LA, they say they be funking with the Mexicans and shit. Like up here, I didn't really never, like, we don't really be around the Mexicans like that, We got a lot of Somalians up here. We got a whole bunch of Somalians, and they come from, like, California. The Somalians I know, they come from San Diego, and they all Crips. They do everything we do. I'm telling you.
Damn.
But yeah. Each person got the keys to a car. You got one person that might have the keys to the car, you know what I'm saying? And he's gonna, like, call shots, or probably, because down there they're making you work out. You got to work out, and you got to stay on point, and you just got to be on your P's and Q's, because the shit is so dangerous down there. You can lose your life and shit. So when we working out, we got to make sure we looking to see where our homies is. Like, after every set, we looking up to count where our homies at on the yard, because all the phones is out on the yard. So, and at any time, somebody can go out there and get hurt. So it's real out there, man. It's real. Here, it ain't really, the jails here ain't really that hard, if you ask me. So when I came back and told the homies about down there and about how the jail is down there, they didn't believe me. I'm like, man, look, we got it easy up here. I ain't gonna lie. We got it real easy in Minnesota in the prison. Our streets is dangerous, but the prisons is easy. Ain't nobody dying, really. Ain't nobody getting stabbed. Ain't nobody getting hit in the head with lock. Ain't nothing. There's just a lot of going to cell and fight.
You get down there in them other joints down there in Kansas or anywhere else, man, get fucked off. Like you can't even, like I couldn't even take a shower without, I had to take showers with my boots on in Kansas. You know,
damn.
I had to get in there with a 2-minute shower, 1-minute shower, and get the fuck up out of there because it's so dangerous. You can get killed back there. Ain't no cameras, ain't no guards back there. It's hard. It was fucked up. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, that was a big deal too. 40 ounces, man.
I remember. Is that where 8-Ball came from? Because a lot of people think 8-Ball is a Coke, which in a lot of areas it is. But in LA, it meant a 40 ounce.
It meant 40 ounce Old English 800 because that's all we drank, man. And we tried to make drinks off of that thing too. Like we drink the Bloody 8. This is the early Michelada. You know,
break
like
it down, dog.
Yeah, V8 juice or Clamato, either one of them, and in a 40 ounce and shit. But it's like, man, you would have to drink that shit pretty quick because as soon as it got hot, it would be nasty as. But you still drink it because you know you're broke and you're a kid and that's all you got. But I had another friend that tried to mix. He tried to call it the Kenny Wayne. He'd mix orange juice with Old English 800, which to me is disgusting. You know, but I don't. I know people make ghetto drinks now. I see guys online that are like testing out ghetto drinks and shit. You know, the other one, man, is the Compton Boiler. And this is the most disgusting shit. It's like Old English 800, Night Train, and Thunderbird all in a vat.
Oh,
and
hell
just,
no.
Like, it's the most disgusting shit ever. But yeah, just get a cup and you're going to be up for real.
That's what it was about back then, is the cheapest with the most alcohol content. Cisco, all that.
Oh, yeah, Cisco. I'm trying to think of some other ones that were up back then. But yeah,
Boone's
like
Farm.
8-Ball. Yeah, Boone's Farm. That's for the ladies.
For the girl, I was about to say, for the
that's what you
chicks,
get for the ladies, Boone's Farm, yeah. But yeah, no, 8-Ball came from Old English 800. But yeah, I remember having an uncle I worked with he was from Norwalk. He was a gangbanger. That he told me one time, he seen a picture of the 8-Ball posse, and he was like, hey, he got busted for selling coke in the army. So he did time in Leavenworth. So he was like, I don't know what's up with this shit. You know, I mean, you guys are selling coke and whatever the and I go, no, this fuck drinking Old English 800. he didn't understand the concept.
Easy
all
E
the
song, I think it was, right? NWA song.
No, he was drinking Budweisers and shit. He was drinking Budweisers. But yeah, no, 8-Ball posse. And then, you know, later, I feel like we were the first posse in that era around where that's at. But, you know, when I even looked at the flyer there's a bunch of posses that we had that were like in other places too. So I'd like to think we were the first. We probably weren't. But as far as Norwalk is concerned, we were the first people to throw hip-hop parties. I'm almost sure. Because, you know, back then I kind of knew everybody that was doing that kind of shit. And we were the first ones to really just throw hip-hop parties. And I think that's what a lot of people liked, too. And we had a lot of broads that were into it, too. They were like, oh, this is a different style. You know what I mean? Like, where we're wearing, like, fucking Adidas and, like, you know what I mean? Like, hip-hop shit. You know what I mean? Like, post-breaking shit. You know? Like, sagging our pants a little bit, creasing them up, folding them under, like kind of being like a little bit anti-cholo, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was just a different style. It was cool as shit, but yeah.
What went into to throwing a hip hop party back then? I mean, did you guys have a DJ scratching and all? Like, talk to me, like what was going on during a hip hop party?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's all about the flyers, right? So my boys would go to, which I had two guys that would take care of this shit a lot. My boy Kenny Wayne and my boy Junior, J-Lo, my Simone buddy, my black buddy, they would take these flyers, get these flyers made, I think in Santa Fe at some Lions Printing or something like that. Like, and they print all these flyers out. We'd deliver them to all the high schools, like Norwalk, Santa Fe, Whittier, Pico, you know, all the cities around there. I don't think we went to Hawaiian Gardens a lot for some reason. I think because the Garda stuff. So we never, for whatever reason, we never handed out flyers at the Garda. But yeah, handing out flyers. And then we had a whole DJ system with different DJs and different rappers too. So they would mostly just play all the, you know, a lot of 2 Live Crew. Hey, we want some pussy. So that first shit coming out, throw that dick. You know what I mean? Yeah, Posse's on Broadway. And then so they would mix in some oldies too, you know. And then rappers. We'd have like 3, 4, 5 rappers or something. Some people want to go at it with each other, or you know. Yeah, it was a shit. I wasn't really part of all that. I was more of a graffiti guy, and I had a 64 Impala, so I had a cool ride. But yeah, all those dudes were way into it. You know, I mean, we'd help them get the equipment and set it up and break it down at the end and all that kind of shit. You know, yeah. I'm amazed at all that shit. Honestly, when I think about it now, it's like being young kids and all these guys, my friends, putting all this shit together. You know what I mean?
Right?
Like,
Now
Yeah,
one
just
person
how-
could do it, and with the one just computer, you know what I'm saying, laptop or whatever. But
Oh
back
yeah,
then,
no, back then it took a lot of dudes.
Yeah.
It took a lot of dudes to move a bunch of equipment around, and then there's a bunch of times we'd get into it with people, and we'd have to basically like fight people off, and then gather all the shit up as much as we could and get the fuck out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is a whole other fucking thing. You know what I mean? And luckily we had big dudes with us. Like we were all teenagers, but we also had like some older guys with us too that would come with us and shit. So, but yeah, by the end it just got really fucked up. I think the last party I remember we threw was in I think I was talking about Jimtown or what fucking that was the last time we threw a party. Jimtown or Hardin, one of those two. And we got into it with some people. One of my friends got hit in the head with a bat. Somebody fucking was shooting off rounds, which I fucking fell the fuck out. I ended up finding out it was one of my friends shooting off rounds. But everybody scattered. As soon as you hear the gun, everybody scattered. But back then, a lot of people weren't getting shot. Like you would think. I mean, there was a death toll for gangbanging back then. Like every Sunday, there would be some death toll, but it usually was like cities more downtown or, like it's not like people didn't get shot in Norwalk, but that definitely was more of like a gangbanging shit. You know what I mean? Gangbanging thing. Most of it was just guys throwing down, hitting each other with fucking bats or, maybe every once in a while somebody gets stabbed or something with a broken bottle or, But you couldn't really carry a lot of weapons back then because the police were on your shit, man. Like every time you would ever get stopped back then, like the police, they take you out of the car immediately. They fucking frisk your car. Even when we were drinking, we would keep all the shit in the trunk. We never had. My friends all knew the rules. You know what I mean? Like we would get stopped all the time, so you have to have all your shit, have all your fucking paperwork in order. You know what I mean? Don't have a fucking broken tail light. Like
yeah,
have all your shit straight. Don't give them a reason to fucking bust you.
Yeah, they were ruthless back then, man.
Definitely
a lot
Norwalk
more
Sheriff
ruthless
is
than
no
they are
joke.
now. No cameras, nothing. But you know what I'm saying? They would. Yeah, I remember that very, very vividly, man. Dude.
Yeah, I had one cop that fucking hated me, dude. Fucking Officer Luna. This guy, super racist. Like I remember he caught me ditching outside of school with a couple of black friends I had, and then put me in the car, take me back to school, and was just like, what's up? You like hanging out with my others or what? And I'm like, oh, I hang out with whoever. I don't give a fuck. And he goes, that's not what I asked you, motherfucker. I grew up in Inglewood. I fucking grew up black people too. I'm just asking you like to hang out with my others and shit. And I'm like, yeah, fucking not racist. I hang out with whoever or whatever. This guy used to give me shit. Him and there's another cop named Duran. I mean, you remember these guys, man. Like they're, But I look back and I go, they're just doing their job too. Like I can't really be mad. Like it is what it is. I don't have any animosity towards any of these people. Like I'm still alive, so I'm just happy.
San Quentin Rehabilitation Center, San Quentin, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
C-Mac is a content creator from Los Angeles, 55th NHC to be exact. He's in and out of jail and prison. He'll go in for some BS, come out, do the same thing, go right back in, come out, do the same thing. It's a constant door, and this dude is very, very entertaining to people. Well, this last time he got a 2-year plus bid for a ghost gun, and many people had hopes that maybe this will be the time that C-Mac comes home, changes his ways. He has a young baby now. It's about to turn a year old. But instead, when he came out, he got right back to the BS. He walked out of the prison, sea-walking, throwing up his neighborhood in the air, bragging about how he is a play ball type of guy. He ain't afraid to go on missions. He's still an active member. He immediately starts dissing his ops. And if you know the streets, you know who his ops are and what some of the words that he would use to describe them. It seems like he hasn't learned his lesson. Now, I know you don't watch YouTube, Ali, and earlier when I asked you about C-Mac, you had no idea who he was. There's something very refreshing about that, by the way. But what do you think about guys like C-Mac? Guys who just don't seem to learn their lesson until it's too late. And do you know people like that?
So first, I want to start off with some words of encouragement for young people out there with an entrepreneurial spirit like this young man who is looking for a way to make some legal currency, in this case, online, streaming, doing this thing. So I'm always give props to people that's out there on their grind. The part that hurts my heart is the going in and out of prison, in and out of jail thing, because not only does that hurt your cash flow, it also hurts the family. the people that you leave behind every time. So it's one of those things where you can make promises to your girlfriend, your wife, your baby mama, or whoever it is, right, and break their heart. But then when you put kids involved, you breaking 2 hearts, 3 hearts, 4 hearts. And this is what makes people on the outside leery about welcoming us back into their lives after coming out of jail or prison. The fear that you can come home, get comfortable, everything's going to start going smooth, and then you're going to get snatched up again. And nobody wants to be a part of that cycle. And that's the damage that's being done when people go in and out, right? As far as the type of content or, entertainment that this young man and people in his predicament, people in his shoes provide, entertainment is entertainment. Only thing I can say is figure out how to be your own boss. If you're serious about your comedy, sketch comedy, that sort of thing, like really invest in yourself and bet on yourself and step your game up and start putting together some real skits and trying your hand at stand-up comedy and try to get into the films. Try to like really just elevate your game and don't stay stuck at the same level in and out for this little change going on these different platforms. You blow that money in one day when you could position yourself to be making with the people who paying you make. So think like a boss. Don't think small. Think like a boss, man. And all that other stuff, man, it ain't gonna do nothing but cut a career short. You can't spend it if you did. So, the most powerful thing that any black man can do is create a platform that bring other black people together.
What do you say to kids out there, man, who think it's cool to go to prison, get that it's that badge of honor. It's a thing to brag about. What do you say to those kids?
Oh, it's fun till it ain't no more. See, coming into the prison system, going through the county jail, the fights and the hanging out and staying up all night and, that little thing, that's one thing. And then you come to prison and you go down to these camps, fire camps, different camps, level 1 institutions, level 2 institutions, where it ain't really rocking like that. It's kind of like hanging out and, little squabbles here and there and stuff like that. That's one side of prison. When you get stuck in these level 4s and these level 3s around the state, or you wind up in federal prison in a USP, a United States Penitentiary, it ain't fun no more. When they put that life sentence over your head, it ain't fun no more. These are the same people that when they was on those level 1s and level 2s and running around the county, like doing their thing, they get stuck with these life sentences and end up in them places, New Folsom, Salinas Valley, Pelican Bay, High Desert, New Corcoran, New Delano. When you get stuck on them yards, bro, them be the same ones that want to go take pills and play crazy and try to get down to somewhere where they got EOP, where you can get to a dorm or something. They trying to figure out a way out of that madness because it's fun till it ain't no more.
I hear this generation say a lot, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. And somewhat we as growing up in the 90s kind of had the same mentality. A lot of our music had that I don't give a fuck. So we kind of followed that mentality, and it showed in the generation, the 90s. I mean, it was about as crazy as it gets in LA. What do you say to kids out there who have that I don't give a fuck mentality?
Oh, they just speaking from a place of hurt. That's all that is. Everybody care about something or somebody, Oftentimes it's just that we don't feel cared for. And so we reflect that. We give that back to the world. I don't care. F everybody, F everything. But in reality, there's something you care about and there's somebody you care about. The real goal is to open up your eyes and see who really care about you. And if nobody else, give that love back to them. That'll keep you out of jail. That'll keep you working. That'll keep a car. that'll keep you in a roof over your head, that'll keep you in some nice clothes, that'll keep you on the straight and narrow, going to church, going to Juma. You know, you got to realize who loves you. And if don't nobody on this planet love you, know that Allah loves you. God loves you. So give that love back to God if you don't give it back to no human being.
Talk to us about your journey right now with Ramadan. Is it still going on? Can you update us on how that's going or went?
Yeah, we almost 24. Yeah, 24 hours out. This is the last. We're coming into the last night. It'll be over tomorrow at Maghrib. You know, it's been another one. It's 18, 19 of them in a row. And it took for me to make this journey to get to a place where I had a moment of clarity and I could see the world as it is and not how I wanted it to be. Seeing the world as I wanted it to be clouded my vision. It distorted things, right? I had a distortion field around me where only certain information and certain things was getting in inside of that distortion field that was around me, right? But making that journey and taking those steps towards the unknown, rebuilding myself, establishing that relationship with my higher power, repairing relationships with my family and friends. All of these things are a part of that journey that brings clarity to a man's life or a woman's life and allows a person to see.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Because if a person only sees what they want it to be and it's not that, that person becomes destructive. They ignite a self-destructive will within the spirit, within the soul, and it reverberates all the way out into the atmosphere. It's a ripple effect. And that's what that F this, F that, I don't care about this, I don't care about that comes from. A self-destructive will.
The weirdos out there. I want to end the show with this clip about black business. Specifically because I just had an experience with a black business that I want to share with you all out there. I was recently in Palm Springs for the weekend with my lady. We go out there a couple times a year, have a good time. And before I went out there, I researched a couple of black businesses that I wanted to show love to. I wanted to eat at a restaurant in Palm Springs that was owned by a black family. I walked in, and within 2 minutes, I walked out. Why? No customer service. When I walked in, they gave me a menu that literally looked like someone used it as a placemat while they were eating barbecue on it. There was barbecue stains all over it, finger stains, fingerprints all over this nasty, dirty menu. The place wasn't really clean. So I said, I got to go. So I left. And that's not my first bad experience with black businesses. I'm going to ask you, black folks, I want to support you. But I need you to get your shit together. All around, it's common themes that I've noticed when I enter black businesses or when I do business with black people. For the most part, fine. But there are times and there are things that I noticed that we could really tweak. Definitely our customer service. Off top, customer service. And we need to stop selling plates for $26. What you get 6 wings, you get a scoop of macaroni salad, and you get 2 sausage links. $26 or some shit like that. Nah, we need to figure out the price point. We need to get a few things together. But anyway, when I heard this Wallow clip, Wallow is a famous podcaster. He is on $1 Million Worth of Game with Gilly the Kid. I don't know if they still do it together. That's last I heard. That's what he was doing. But he has this clip about black business. and why we shouldn't blindly support black business.
Us. Oh, I'm black. No black people. Nobody gives a fuck about that. Know that shit. Either you got a good business or you don't. All that shit, don't nobody want to hear that shit. That's a hustle. Support me because I got a black business. Is your restaurant clean? Is the food good? Do you got consistent cooks? Is the material on your shit good? Stop doing that. Oh, you support the white people? No, I support consistency, baby.
Thank you.
Fuck
Thank
about
you.
What color you is? I'm gonna spend my money. That paper, I'm gonna spend them bills where the fuck I want to spend it at. Whether it's Porsche, Ferrari, Land, I'm gonna do what the fuck I want to do while I'm here. But I'm gonna tell you one thing: I ain't gonna be finessed off some black. But one thing about it, 70% of you motherfuckers is not going to make it.
He just told the group of black folks he's talking to, 70% of y'all are not going to make it. And he just broke down why. How important that is. I'm not just going to support you just because I'm black business. You got to support me. If you don't, you hate your people, blah, blah, blah. Nah. First of all, nobody supports black business more than I do. I go out of my way to support black business. But if this is trash, I'm walking out. If I get bad service, I'm not leaving a tip. It is what it is. Let's hear Wallow one more time before we wrap it up.
Us. Oh, I'm black. No black people. Nobody gives a fuck about that. Know that shit. Either you got a good business or you don't. All that shit, don't nobody want to hear that shit. That's a hustle. Support me because I got a black business. Is your restaurant clean? Is the food good? Do you got consistent cooks? Is the material on your shit good? Stop doing that.
Come
you
on.
support the white people? No, I support consistency, baby. Fuck about what color you is. I'm gonna spend my money. That paper, I'm gonna spend them bills where the fuck I want to spend it at. Whether it's Porsche, Ferrari, Land, I'm gonna do what the fuck I want to do while I'm here. But I'm gonna tell you one thing: I ain't gonna be finessed off some black. But one thing about it, 70% of you motherfuckers is not going to make it.
On that note, I'm going to get the hell out of here. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. And if this is your first time joining the channel and you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button.